people. Mere souvenirs from all the lives that I have visited. See, I've given them four corners to exist in, when in actuality they deserve far less than this, but I digress in this sentiment. See, these images have meant more to me than the nanoseconds spent on capturing that moment perfectly, and it will never happen again. No, not without me. The light will never fall upon your skin the same as it did on the day that you got vulnerable for me. The day you released yourself from vanity and let your spirit breathe. It's called photography, which is Greek for light drawing. See, your light drew me into you and we made some art that day. I got carried away in the instantaneous greatness of the whole ordeal, knowing that I had a portion of your spirit caught on a roll of film. See, I'm sitting on a gold mine of times past, and I'm just trying to make them last a little longer, surpassing the sensationalism of the digital age. See, I sit back as that shit rapes you of your good taste, not knowing that some of the best photographs are the ones you cannot take, the ones too priceless to place upon that book of fleeting faces. See, this ain't no hobby for me, because I happen to eat, sleep, and breathe my shutter speed. So get back to me when you've developed a photograph on the surface of a bed sheet, because that's where you and she used to sleep, man. It's deep. I speak in terms of composition and capture, light, contrast, and aperture, caught up in the rapture of life aimed at camera. Click! Did you get it? And to think I almost missed it. If my mother had to listen to them doctors saying I wouldn't be shit cause her retina's a little tilted and albinism stole her vision, but Miss Dixon thought different. It's like she knew I might be gifted. So it's best I don't disappoint my mother and have her faith in me turned asunder. I couldn't live with that. So with my lens uncapped, I capture some of the most beautifully composed proof that life has happened right before these very eyes. See, I'm not surprised that God gave the best insight to the visually impaired, because I happen to see more in a second than most would likely see in a year, and that's with my eyes closed. I get a good sense of the environment with my nose, and I can identify a color by the sound that it shows, because I'm not my disposition. I can't miss perfect vision if we wasn't kicking it in the first place. And it's true that when one sense falls short, the others make haste, so my perspectives never rest. They take power naps at best, because these hands were meant to caress any medium that crosses their path. I just chose this mode of photography because it's as portable as I am. See, world, I am one of the hardest working, at a moment in time where the hardest are hard to find, because that bullshit keeps surfacing to the front line. See, you'll never find sustenance while skimming away comfortably at the surface. So help me unearth this unearthly deity in me and welcome you to some sort of artistic rapture, where we speak in terms of composition and capture, light, contrast, and aperture, caught up in the rapture of life aimed at camera. Click. Did you get it? This is perfect vision from the mouth of the visually impaired, and I see all of you. I began the groundwork for this poem, Perfect Vision, when I was in college. In fact, the first two lines of the piece are taken directly from my senior thesis essay. I take permanent pictures of temporary people, mere souvenirs from all the lives that I had visited, because even at that time, now 6 years ago, I realized that even in my adult age, people are just as temporary as they were in high school. I knew that my photographs would be a portal into a time that I would never be able to get back, because sooner or later, like clockwork, people begin to show their true selves. And sometimes it's not that photo perfect, picture perfect, idealistic scenario that you had at one time. It sooner or later becomes this warped, completely opposite of who you knew portrait of somebody. As long as I had those photographs, I knew that I could preserve everything that was good about a person, about a memory, about a place, about a time that I could never get back. Before my grandmother passed away, she was diagnosed with Alzheimer's and dementia, and that was extremely hard for me, because I knew that the way to get through to her was to spark her memory somehow in a way that she could communicate with me through her mind deteriorating. We didn't have very many family portraits. In fact, I made it a point to always take pictures of my family after that, because I will want someday somebody to show me a photograph and I'll remember exactly where I was, who I was, and what was going on. And with my grandmother especially, that taught me the importance of capturing moments, because she could never get those times back. The few photographs that we did have, really meant a lot. She was right there with us, and she looked at the photograph, and then that would refresh her memory of who we were, even her immediate family, my mother and I. We visit her every day at the nursing home, and bring with us a photograph, a song, something that we could pull a memory from, and it helped us a lot as we began to say goodbye to her. So photography has always been so important to me, and it continues to be a driving force in my life. Growing up was difficult. I was born with nystagmus, astigmatism due to albinoid genes, and that severely depletes eyesight. I now am considered legally blind. There's no farsightedness. It's ridiculous. But as I said, how can I miss perfect vision if I never knew it in the first place? When I was a child, my mother was told that I'd be mentally ill, that the partial sight would skew every bit of connection I could have to the world. I wouldn't be able to relate to things like other kids did, and I'd be slow. My mother said the hell with that, and I thank her for it. She didn't allow me to depend on my disability at all. She allowed me to do anything and everything I wanted, and art and creativity and interpreting the world was what I wanted to do. If I wanted to paint, she gave me a paintbrush. If I wanted to sing, she threw me a microphone. Every outlet I could have to express myself, she didn't deny me, regardless of what doctors said. And I express that force through photography, because to me that's defying the odds. It's defying every no, every you can't that I was ever told. And it's hard sometimes. But as long as I don't know what I don't see, I'm not missing out at all. I compensate in other ways. I depend on the contrast, the lights and the darks to navigate through the world, so that's how I interpret life through my photography. I don't use my sickness, I don't use my disability as a crutch. I never have, I never will. It does not define me in any way, shape, or form. I don't need a seeing eye dog or a cane. I can hear my way through the world. I can smell and taste my way through the world. And that's beautiful. I feel sometimes I have more sight, more of a perception to things than most well-sighted people. I wrote Perfect Vision as kind of a testimony to defying the odds, to never letting anybody say that you can't or you won't be able to. I stand for being a photographer in a place and time where everyone's a freaking photographer. I try to preserve the authenticity of the craft by still working with film and alternative processes. Everything isn't Instagram ready. Everything isn't point and shoot. There's still a very technical aspect of photography that I think a lot of people have forgotten or just never bothered to learn. I just try to preserve the craft in everything that I do.